I'm going to show you how to get your fivelet timing down, as well as move them around the drum set for beats and fills to add them to your vocabulary. Fivelets, or quintuplets, are a ratio of 5 to 4, which means that you can fit 5 quarter note fivelets in the span of 4 quarter notes, or 5 eighth note fivelets in the span of 4 eighth notes, or 5 16th note fivelets in the span of 5 16th notes, and so on. When using fivelets as a rate instead of as polyrhythms, which you can learn a lot more about in my metric modulation and polyrhythm video, I find that it's better to think 2 note values larger than what we're playing. For example, when playing eighth note fivelets, it's easier for me to think about half notes. And when playing 16th note fivelets, it's easier for me to think about quarter notes. So when we're trying to play fivelets in time, it's a lot easier to think about where the downbeats line up and then just fixing our spacing to make it even, rather than where everything could line up. Because we're fitting 5 notes into a 4 note space, the space in between the notes is going to be a little bit smaller than the duple counterpart, which means your hand speed is going to increase ever so slightly. It's also helpful to know that if we're alternating these fivelets, we're going to alternate our downbeats. So each fivelet's going to start with a different hand. Enough talking, let's get into some grids to get this timing right. So some practice tips to make this go way faster is to obviously use a metronome, otherwise what are we doing? And to count out loud while you're playing, which I found that nobody likes to do. But if you do it, it's going to make your life a lot easier. I'm going to set my metronome to 90 beats per minute. I'm going to alternate everything, and then I'm going to accent each downbeat of these fivelets. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. What usually goes wrong is making our spaces too big or too small at the beginning or end of these fivelets to compensate for the time that we know we need to make up for. So when you're making your adjustments, really try to feel the evenness of the space and relax in your hands. Try not to constantly adjust, kind of falling into the same patterns. Try to get used to keeping one consistent hand speed and then locking into what it feels like to play it right. So now to grid it out a little bit and feel the space better, we're going to go from eighth notes to 16th note fivelets. We're just going to do a stock grid, like 4, 2, 1 kind of thing, and then go from there. Now let's do the same thing, but with 16th notes, going to 16th note fivelets. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. When playing 16th note fivelets, we can really focus in on if our hand speed is starting out too fast or too slow. You can really solidify your muscle memory for getting this hand speed right from the beginning. When I was younger, one of the ways that we learned to feel these fivelets a lot better was to use 5-syllable words that flow really well, like university, 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 university. 1. And of course, when practicing, don't just do what we did right here and that's it. Use the classic muscle memory practice regimen. So start slower, do it over and over again, make sure it's absolutely perfect, and once you've done it 5 to 7 times perfect all the way through, no mistakes, then you bump up the tempo just a little bit and you do it all over again. It's kind of tedious, but it's the fastest way to get used to all this stuff. All right, now that we're on the drums, we want to do a kind of a similar grid that we just did, but in a drum set setting. Our check pattern is going to be just a stock drum beat, like bass on 1 and 3, snare on 2 and 4, eighths on the hi-hat, and we're just going to play simple alternating fivelets on the snare drum. You can either do straight fivelets on the snare with the accents, or you could do your bass drums for the accents. I'll do both for this demonstration. So we're just going to do a 4-2 grid to make it a little simpler. You can do the same 16th note idea that we did from before, just by adding a little bit more 16th note feel to your groove. Okay, so that's the idea. That's the skeleton of this work right here. Let's talk about some different ways that we can play these fivelets now. So I'm not going to go through every possible permutation of 5 notes around our body. That's a lot. I don't know how many that is. I'm just going to give you a few to get started. When you're coming up with these stickings yourself, think of things that you already know, like 4-note phrases. If you want to get into some of these 4-note phrases, I have a whole video about that right here you can check out. So like, let's do a right hand paradiddle with just a left at the end. So right, left, right, right, left. I'm going to put an accent on the first note and the last note of the 5 here. Then I'm just going to move my arms around a little bit. You can start by just putting your accents in different places and leaving all the other notes on the snare, but really just be creative with your orchestration. See what sounds cool and how you move. So I'm going to do a 2-beat fill with this. I'm going to put my first and fifth partial accent on the tom, keep everything else on the snare, and then for the second beat, I'm going to put my first partial accent on the floor tom, and then my fifth partial accent on the snare. So you can move your accents around anywhere you want for that. You can do whatever you want. All right, let's do right, left, foot. This one you can move around like anything else. So you could do like a normal drum fill, but with the foot at the end making it fivelets. For this one, I'm gonna move my arms around kind of randomly, just going to different surfaces. Again, be creative. Right, left, right, foot, foot. One of my favorites is right, left foot, left. This one leaves so much time for your right hand to decide what it wants to hit next. So I'm just gonna keep my left on the snare and hit stuff with my right hand. So that's the idea. I mean, use these stickings. I'll have more stickings on the PDF you can download in the description, but just come up with something that equals 5 and then play it as fivelets. You don't have to do a straight fivelet fill all the time. You can use fivelets with other things too. But the fluency of that comes from the exercises and really understanding the spaces and how to do rate changes. So that's why doing work on the pad like we did is so crucial. Now I can't make a fivelet video on the drum set without mentioning Quintuplet Swing. So I'm sure a lot of people have covered this before. I'm not gonna go too in depth. This was like a big thing a couple of years ago. But the idea is instead of having 16th notes or 8th notes as your grid, we're turning that into fivelets and then moving around where we put our accents or our macro rhythm. Most commonly, it's on the first note and the fourth note, leaving a little bit more space in between the first 2 notes of the macro rhythm than the downbeat. So my bass is gonna be on beat 1, my snare is gonna be on beat 2, etc. And then my right hand's gonna accent the first and fourth partial of the fivelet. And then just try filling in that space a little bit however you want. Again, all of this comes from understanding the subdivision of the fivelet and what your hand speed's supposed to be like in reference to other things. So do the work on the pad and then jump on the drum set and be creative. Have fun with it. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, leave a comment, hit the bell icon because I got new videos coming out every single week. Hit the description for the free PDF of the grid exercises we played today as well as the stickings that we used. There's also a link down there to my website for lessons. There's links to my Instagram and links to my music, which you can check out on all platforms. All right, see ya.